message has come up. Your computer or your internet connection cannot handle your current quality settings. Please try reducing your resolution and or quality for smoother streaming. Let's try that. Excuse me. So, welcome. Lama John is going to be taking over the Wednesday night classes for the next couple of months, actually. So, I'm flying solo. What we're going to do in the new year, because this course, we're now halfway through. This is the midway point. And this will take us right up until our winter break that we always take between Christmas and New Year's. And then we will, in the new year, be going back. Are you okay, Sarah?
No, I don't know why this pen keeps appearing.
Because I always need a prop.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Here's a prop.
Actually, might need it today. I might.
Sorry.
So in the new year, what we're going to do with ACI, ACI is still going to be Tuesday. But what we're going to do is normally at Diamond Mountain, they have what's called a midterm break right halfway through. And usually everyone goes and sees a movie, which would be lovely. But we're going to start films here. So we're not going to do the midterm break with a movie, but what we're going to do is a midterm break debate. So we're going to go for 5 weeks, and then on the 6th week is going to be a debate on what we've been learning. And then after another 5 weeks will be a final debate class, which is where you will get to review the entire final. And then we'll launch into the next ACI course. So that's going to be the new program from January. Is this okay now that it goes dark?
Yeah.
Okay. So on Wednesday nights, because Doug Wienhoff was just here teaching some fabulous meditation classes, and he'll be back in late February, early March? Yeah.
February 28th.
To lead a 10-day retreat. Well, you have your option of a weekend or longer. Highly recommend it if you can carve out the time. So what Lama John is doing is the follow-up to what Holy Doug Wienhoff just taught, and making it practical so people can practice what they learned. And then when Doug comes back, there will be an opportunity to really go deeper with it. So, and then I think there's going to be a few classes of follow-up to that, just so that everyone's really comfortable. And then we'll go back to every 5 weeks there will be a new meditation module. But we are going to continue working our way through ACI, and so after this class we'll go back and do 11 through 15, and then we'll have 18, and then those of you who have done all of them can Marok. And then we can talk about that in the future. But ACI 17, okay, you guys know that this is a review of the formal study series of courses, and we've been reviewing 6 through 10. Yeah. So we have finished 6 and 7, and we're about to launch into 8, which is really cool. So we have to, it's fragile karma to be in these types of classes. So we have to make sure we offer, right? And we have to ask for these teachings. Sarah?
Sashi Pruki Tukshi Reto Tramri Ramringshi Ninte Padi
Sangye Shindu Mite Uwa Kirogunamba Shinga Chuparsho Idam Gururanamanda Kamyatayami Chudan Soki Choknamba Jantu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gibe Sunamgi Drola Penshir Sange Druparsho Chudan Soki Choknamba Jantu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gibe Sunamgi Drola Penshir Sange Druparsho Chudan Soki Choknamba Jantu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gibe Sunamgi Drola Penshir Sange Druparsho. So this is not a commonly taught course, ACI 8, which is called Death and the Realms of Existence. Lama Marud, whose beautiful lung is where Lama John and I got this particular course, ACI 17 live. When he got to this part, he said ACI 8 was the first class he started his ACI.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said it kind of freaked him out, you know? It's just because, seriously, in this, if you take the long playing dance version of this course, you will learn about all these different realms, all these different neighborhoods in samsara. And of them, there's a whole lot of hells. So, yeah, it can sound a little fantastic. It can sound a little superstitious. It can sound a little like unlike everything else you've been learning in ACI, especially because you've come off of ACI 6, which is all about emptiness, right? And then you've gone through the Bodhisattva Vow course, and then boom, you land into basically the Abhidharma Kosha again, which is where you started with the Karma course, and not started, but that's where the ACI 5 draws a lot of its authentic scripture from. And the Abhidharma Kosha, the treasure house of knowledge, is actually considered a lower school textbook. And when I say lower, it's not that it's less intelligent. By no means do I mean that, because if you could actually understand the Abhidharma Kosha perfectly, you would be amazing. Well, you are amazing, but you know, like it would be. It takes a lot. I have not read it from cover to cover. Thanks to Geshe-La's amazing series of courses, we get like the jewels of the treasure house dropped into our lives. You know, they're like jewels. They're like gems that are just, you know, handed to us basically. And but it is a lower school teaching, so you always have to understand your highest understanding of emptiness, the possibility of things, the pure potentiality of things, and karma, the causes for why any of us see anything. So these realms, which we're going to take a quick tour through over the next 2 classes, if they sound a little out there, don't just assume that they don't exist, okay? But they also don't exist fixedly out there, like nothing exists that way, right? How do things exist? Interdependently by our karma. It's dependent upon our karma, right? Our projections are forced on us. They depend on the causes that we've put into place and the conditions that will ripen as a definite result. So what this course is really beautiful at doing is giving a guided tour of all the possible realms that we could land up in if we don't get out of samsara. And the chances are you've already been to many of these. So it's maybe a refresher course for many of us. But at the end of the day, it's also to motivate you to not be satisfied with staying in the spin cycle of suffering. Because really, these are your options. These are your different neighborhoods that you could go to. And so to do that, we really have to understand what samsara is. So anyways, that's the realms of existence part. It's death in the realms of existence, right? So the realms of existence are all the different neighborhoods in samsara. The death part is that, when we understand all of these different neighborhoods, we do want to be really, really motivated to get out. So we do have to have an understanding and awareness of death. Born in these bodies, in this realm, it's inevitable because the cause for death is to be born in this realm, to be born in any of these realms, in these samsaric realms. It's we'll get to it, I think, in this class, but we'll get to another laundry list of sufferings, and you're going to see how death, or actually birth that causes death, is at the crux of a lot of this stuff. So don't worry, it's not depressing. It actually is very, very motivating. The corners of Sarah's mouth is drooping. It's like, not to worry. It really isn't meant to freak you out. But you have to remember, samsara is not, samsara, just like nirvana, or nirvana, just like samsara, is not a place somewhere. Like we say we are in samsara. Actually, you know what? We are samsara. It's not that we go to samsara. And the day that all of our causes for experiencing suffering are done, we will no longer be samsara. We will no longer be in samsara. We will be in nirvana. The end of all of your kleshas, right? The end of all of your suffering. So you could, right? Do you remember Lama John saying the other day we were talking about the story of one of Lord Buddha's previous lives on a ship. And he was a high, high, high-ranking bodhisattva by this point. The point of the story was not actually what we pointed out, but do you guys remember what we pointed out? That Lord Buddha at that point was not Lord Buddha yet, but he was an Arya, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, one could posit that he was already an Arhat, right? What else? He was still working on a ship, right? Like he was still a regular dude doing a regular thing, right? In terms of but he was in nirvana. So it's not like you have to be anywhere other than exactly where you are now. For all I know, all of you actually are sitting in nirvana. You're just humoring me because that's what you guys do. But it's that's the thing we have to keep reminding ourselves. It is a projection forced upon us by our karma. But even that can trip off our tongue so quickly, like it becomes what we call Dharma cocktail banter, where it just becomes something you say. It's almost one word, and we don't really think of it so much after a while. So we do, this course kind of snaps you back into remembering why that phrase is so important, why we really need to get it. So back to the Abhidharma Kosha. Do you guys remember who it was written by? Yes. Very good. And who was he? He was a famous brother, actually. He had a famous brother. He was famous and his brother was famous. Do you guys remember who his brother was? Asanga. That's right. And they lived approximately 350 AD. Those two are famous for having written most of the monastic curriculum in any Buddhist monastery, actually. And Master Vasubandhu, of the two, is widely regarded as a teacher of the lower schools, the Hinayana schools, shall we say. That doesn't actually mean he was a lower school Buddhist, per se. It just means that he was expert at teaching it, at explaining it, at writing the commentaries. In fact, from a higher school point of view, they would say he was a higher school practitioner teaching lower school for the benefit of those of us who need to hear it. There's actually a longer explanation of this lower school, higher school thing and Master Vasubandhu. It's not in this particular course, but it actually is an explanation of why he even wrote the Abhidharma Kosha, because he was actually very much a proponent and a defender of the lower school thought process, the whole concept. And it was actually when he, I'm going to get the punchline wrong. That's why I need John here, because I always get the punchline wrong. But anyways, he actually was a higher school practitioner, and it was when he finished writing all of the lower school texts and he got it, that it was definitely not an lower school understanding, something like that, where, and that's why, because if you did any of this perfectly, it would get you all the way. So lower, higher, just if we just take it and do it well, it will get you there. So, again, the way we're going to learn about the realms is quite literal. Some people need literal. And always, though, you have to remember that it is a mental image. It is a projection forced upon you, forced upon your mind by your karma. Okay? But just because it's a projection does not mean these realms don't exist. In fact, because they're a projection, they exist. That one was actually a hard one for me at the very beginning when I first started learning about projections, because I've worked in the film industry and I think about projecting film. And to me, it's ethereal. It's not real, quote unquote real, right? Like it's fantasy, it's imagination. But again, you know what? I was taking projection too literally, right? Because when you do the logical understanding of cause and effect, about how, is this one, see, I needed it, is this one or many, right? Is it fixed as a pen from its own side? And we do all of those logical arguments, battling with our own mind, where finally you have to say, it can't be the way it appears. And you start to get little glimpses of, I understand what a projection is. It is very different from the sort of dictionary term. It's, or not even a dictionary term. My personal feeling around what a projection was still rather fixed. So it's not that because it's a projection, it's not real. Because in the case of a movie, because it's a projection, it's not real, right? It's a fantasy. It's somebody's lights and smokes and mirrors that they're projecting for you. It's not like that. Because it's your projection, it is real for you. Just like a movie can be really real for you when you're totally engrossed in it, right? Everybody knows we're showing a movie in here this Saturday, right? Yeah. In partnership with Drishti Point. Fabulous movie about His Holiness. You all have to come. So, yeah, in fact, projections exist because they work. That's another way of saying it. And how they work is really understanding, again, emptiness and karma. It all comes. Actually, that's all I have to teach you. Karma and emptiness, that's it. But I know I need to hear it many, many different ways. And I still find myself at work getting irritated, or I still find myself getting impatient. In those seconds that I'm impatient or irritated, I'm So thankfully there's courses like this to remind me again. So the idea of understanding projections and understanding that causes put into place will result in you experiencing yourself and your world in a certain way is why things like a hell realm does exist. It exists for the beings who are projecting it that way, right? And you know, the thing about the human realm, they say the human realm is actually the very best realm to get the job done, but it's also the very best realm for that because you've got just enough suffering that you know you don't want it, but you also have enough bliss. You have enough glimpses of this paradise that we're aspiring to in many ways, right? And really, a hell being is just forced by their karma to be in unremitting pain. You know? It's just a shift in karma. But because this particular course, this particular subject matter, this particular part of the Abhidharmakosha is so literal sounding, many contemporary Buddhists are reluctant to teach it for fear of being misunderstood. But we get hardcore Buddhism here, so we're going to dive in. Okay. Yeah. I mean, hell realms. Oh my God, what's going on in the Philippines right now? You know? That's hell. And not that long ago, it was only 3 years ago when the earthquake hit Japan. And, you know, I had family there. It's hell. And it shifts like that. You know? And that's in the human realm. We're not even talking the real hell realms, you know? So, you know, don't think of these realms of existence, these realms that we're going to talk about, as geographical locations. They're basically experiences that just go on for extended periods of time. And we're having an extended experience here, right now, right? And so there are many other possibilities. So the death part, death and the realms of existence, the death part means that we have to remember it's not if we're going to die, it's when we die. We need to be prepared about all of the different, we need to know that we could go to any of these neighborhoods, and if we don't want to go to any of these neighborhoods, now's the time to do something about it. Okay? So it's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up and to get you really, really clear on the opportunity that you have right now, because you all do. And the human realm is actually about as good as it's going to get in suffering, in the samsaric realm. Now there are actually in the realms of samsara, it's divided into 3 main parts: the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. We are in the desire realm, just in case you were wondering. We often talk in these courses about the need to get to your DPE, or direct perception of emptiness, which is actually something you achieve in a deep state of meditation. You need to actually not be in the desire realm. You need to actually be in the next realm, which is the form realm. Now your body stays here, which is why we need to get good at meditation, so that you can park your body and leave it. And your mind goes to another realm. The first level, actually, of the form realm. If you study this in depth, you actually get to know all the different layers of each of these realms too. We're not going to go into that today. Actually, we're not going to go into that in this course because this is the review. But the form realm is, we're interested in the form realm only to get to that first level, to get to your DPE. Formless realm is exactly what it says. There is no form. It is just mind. So really, we're not so concerned about those two parts of the realms of samsara. We're really concerned mostly with the desire realm and all the different parts of that. Okay, so the form and formless realms are really kind of ethereal states where you will reach. Your karma will force you into those realms if you get really good at meditation on a non-virtuous object. So you're really, really good at the mechanics of meditation, so good that you are blissed out, because that is one of the byproducts of getting good. They call it practiced ease. I think they introduced that in ACI 3 when they first teach you the 9 stages of meditation. This practiced ease, I also associate that with yoga too. The more you practice, the more there is ease about it, right? It could be said about anything. But this practiced ease that comes with meditation comes with the added, the value added of your energetic body totally getting in, all lit up and in sync. And it's a bit of a chemical thing that's going on, right? So you can feel euphoria. There have been medical tests done, scientific tests, where it actually does mimic like a serotonin rush and like all these things that mimic an actual drug-induced high. Like it's that palpable in terms of changing your physiology. So, you get these really incredible sensations, and it feels good. It feels really, really good. So why wouldn't you stay there, right? So, but we're always, always, always cautious. And the yogic texts caution us too, to not get stuck in that feel good, ooby groovy place, because you're just wasting your time. And what you are doing is collecting the karma that will put you into a form or formless realm, which again will feel really, really ooby groovy until that karma runs out, right? So you're still in samsara. This is the point. You're not done. You're not out yet. So you'll just get good at doing it over and over and over again. But when it runs out, that's when we have to think about these other neighborhoods that we could end up in. By the way, meditating on the breath is considered a non-virtuous object. Doesn't mean it's a bad object. And we do actually use the breath as a tool to get us to this level of stability. But by non-virtuous, what they mean is that it has to be something that will viscerally change your mind. It will change you. You wake up from, you literally rise from your meditations on virtuous objects changed. Maybe a little, maybe a lot, but it won't just be this sort of morphine haze where it just feels good for the sake of feeling good. That's not to say it won't feel good. It will still feel good. When you get good at meditation, the practiced ease is still definitely there. But the whole point is to use the breath to, and actually Doug just taught this, right, where you focus on the gross, like the belly going up and down, and you are using the breath because it's something that you can really bring your mind into very quickly. Very useful. And it's a very, very useful tool to train ourselves in the mechanics of meditation. But then at a certain point, you do want to use this powerful mind. It's like this powerful microscope of a mind, and focus on something that will change you. The meditation that is taught in this course, which I'm not sure we'll get to today, maybe we'll do it next time, is death awareness meditation. And it's a really amazing practice, actually. So we'll actually do that as a meditation. In the Yoga Sutra, for those of you who are familiar with that, or even if you're not, it does talk about the goal of meditation is to shrink your kleshas until they go away entirely. I think the word is tanu. but there's this actual Sanskrit word that means to shrink. And I always get, I'm doing this with my hand because every time I hear the word, I get this, it's almost onomatopoeic for me. Like I get this sensation of, your kleshas just like being squeezed away. Okay, so I said that the realms of samsara are three: desire, form, and formless, right? Guess what? The desire realm has 20 parts. Okay? 20 different neighborhoods. We're not so worried about the form and formless realm. There are many in there too, but we're not going to go into that. We're most concerned with the 20 different parts of the desire realm. And these are identified in the Abhidharma Kosha by Master Vasubandhu. There are 8 hot hells. There's actually a bunch of cold hells too, by the way, but in this presentation we're only talking about the 8 hot hells. Then there's the craving spirit, the hungry ghost, or the preta, all same thing. There's that realm. It's one. Yeah. Hungry ghost or craving spirit are English translations for preta. And then there's the animal realm. We know the animal realm exists, right? That's the only other one we can actually see. Now, people can debate me on that. Some people can see other realms, but most of us can see the human or the animal realm. And then the human realm, actually, it's humans of the 4 continents. So we identify the human realms in the desire realm of samsara as 4. And you may have heard me say this before, but according to South Asian cosmology, well, actually that we do at the beginning, right? 4 continents. We are on the southern continent called Zambu. Apparently, there's a tree that grows here. And when the fruit drops into the water, it makes this sound that goes the boom. So that's how we got the word. The whole continent got named that. There's actually other teachings too, where apparently each continent is the color of the sky is indicative also of the substance of the area. Anyways, I'm digressing, but it's fascinating. Like when you go into the Abhidharma Kosha and you actually read the descriptions, they give detailed descriptions of all of this stuff. It's really very cool, and I only know just a little bit about it, but yeah, we're on the continent of Zambu. And then there are the 6 types of pleasure beings. So these are devas, these are our gods, and demigods. Okay, so let's make sure we've got 20. Human of the 4 continents, 6 types of pleasure beings, that's 10. Animal, 11. Craving spirits, 12, and 8 hot hells. That makes the 20 neighborhoods that we're reviewing. Okay. So, you guys remember why it's called the desire realm?
There's craving for food and sex.
Food and sex. The major cravings of this realm, major motivation. And these are the neighborhoods. We broke them down into 20, but if we want to make a short list, we call them the 6 realms of the desire realm. So there's 3 fortunate births and 3 unfortunate births in the desire realm. Okay? The 3 fortunate births are pleasure beings, or devas, gods, near pleasure beings, or demigods, and human. So all 3, pleasure being, near pleasure being, and humans, are considered fortunate births. Relative to samsara, these are the more pleasant ones. And then there's 3 unfortunate ones, which are the animal, the hungry ghost, and the hell. Okay? So each of these realms, all 6 of them, have their particular kind of suffering. Because even the more fortunate ones are still in the realm of suffering. Okay? And then there is a general suffering, which we are going to talk about. So I'm going to go through the 6 neighborhoods again, talking about the particular sufferings. Okay? Sounds like a homework question to me. So the pleasure beings, you know how you get into a pleasure being realm, the causes that would get you there is the result of what's called dirty good karma. Good karma that you produce ignorantly. Good karma that you produce by not really understanding why you're doing it. Like if you're just a nice person just 'cause, there's nothing wrong with being a nice person, okay? Even better to be a nice person than a not nice person. But if you're doing it unconsciously, not really with any particular focus for that kindness, you could result in a very lovely samsaric rebirth. So it'll be very, very pleasant, but it'll still be in samsara. And so the particular suffering of this realm isn't while you're using up all that good karma. That's actually perfectly lovely. It's towards the end, when the karma starts running up, that's when the suffering happens. And they have all of this graphic imagery in the Abhidharma Kosha. They literally say your garlands start to wilt, and you start to smell bad. And other pleasure beings stay away from you because, you know, you've been perfect up until your karma starts to run out. And it doesn't take very long for the actual running out to happen. And as you, as the pleasure being, are going through this decay, this demise, you know that you get a glimpse of what's going to come next. And apparently it's more painful and horrific than you would want to ever imagine. So apparently as a pleasure being, they totally freak out at that point. You know, you can kind of think of it as, because we have relatively cushy lives in Vancouver, you know? And well, just think of any comfortable, you know, well, think of yourself, okay? And you walked out that door and suddenly you were in a box on the streets of Calcutta. And that was your life. Boom. Right? It would be freaky. It would be a little freaky. So it's like that, you know, where you've got this beautiful, idyllic, comfortable, no worries kind of life, and then it ends. So that's the pleasure beings. The near pleasure beings, this is still a fortunate birth in samsara, right? Do you know what the near pleasure beings' particular suffering is? Jealousy. They're jealous of the full pleasure beings because they can see the full pleasure beings and they really covet that cushy type of life. And we kind of see that here, right? You know? It's, yeah. I mean, who hasn't wanted something other, who hasn't wanted to live other than where they live? Or who hasn't wanted, you know, that better bike or that nicer sofa or whatever it is, you know, whatever rocks your boat. It's just, it's this jealous, this wanting something that you think somebody else has a more comfortable life in, you know? It's like that. We do have these experiences. But that's the particular suffering, the jealousy. The animal realm, I'm going to jump to the more unfortunate first. The animal realm has a couple of significant sufferings. They are, first of all, afflicted with great, great ignorance. And, you know, no matter how many of us are devoted to our pets and think they're the most brilliant beings in the world, the animal realm, in generally speaking, are afflicted with great, great ignorance. You can talk to them about Dharma all day, and they will not understand karma and emptiness. I know. Well, you know, and then there's always, yeah, it's like you take it to the debate ground, because I have also taught you that holy beings can emanate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, not from their own side, right? So, but anyways, the general explanation is that the animal realm is afflicted with this great, great ignorance. So that's one particular suffering. But secondly, they are at the mercy of other beings, especially humans, who treat them either as slaves or food. We either work them or we eat them, you know? And or left to their own defenses without humans, they're either fighting with each other. It's that eat or be eaten thing, right? They're looking for their next meal, and they're looking over their shoulder to not be eaten by something or someone else. So it's that's their whole life. We really idealize, especially with the help of Disney, we really idealize the animal realm. Like we humanize them, and we think it's all frolicking bunnies and stuff, right? But it's pretty brutal.
They don't have to go to work, though. Self-employed.
Although I do remember, I don't know how many of you guys remember the old Three Jewels on West 10th, but we were in a back alley. You had to go through a back alley, and I remember coming out one day at broad daylight, and this crow was busy on the road. And what I realized, what he was eating a carcass of another bird, and it was really, I don't think he killed the bird. I think the bird was already there, but it was quite a. And I don't know why I thought birds were vegetarian, because they eat bugs, right? But for some reason, I think of birds as eating seeds, and but not vegetarian,
Not crows.
No, but it was quite disturbing to see that, and but it's part of the, the bird that was eating wasn't doing it out of malice. It was doing it out of survival, and anyways. Okay, the next one, craving spirits, pretas. They have this particular suffering of having insatiable appetites and never being able to satisfy them. They can be depicted as having really big bellies and tiny, tiny, tiny throats so that the nourishment can't get down. Or, they'll see a beautiful, they're thirsty, and they'll see a beautiful running stream of water. When they get up to it, it's all pus and blood. Or they'll be able to actually take something in their mouths, and as it goes down, it's like burning acid. So, it's basically, those are very, very dramatic examples I gave you, but that's the classic examples they tell you about. But just think about any time you've experienced, say, getting something new, like a new pair of shoes, and then within weeks or months, they're scuffed, or a new car and someone like scratches it, or you know what I mean? Like there's this feeling of you want something, you get it, and then it goes bad for whatever reason, right? So that's kind of, again, we get these glimpses. But as a craving spirit, you're in this realm where your karma is forcing you to always be never satisfied and giving you these physical obstacles. Hell realms are either unbearably hot or unbearably cold. And Lamaji pointed out at this point that that's kind of the base cause of our own discomfort. We're either too hot or too cold, right? Like usually what can make us grumpy is that we're too hot or too cold. So it's kind of a basic suffering. But someone in a hell realm is suffering that to the extreme, unremittingly. So the human realm, we're all pretty familiar with our sufferings here, right? We have versions of all of those other realms that I just walked you through. What it's important to understand is that in the human realm, you have the perfect balance of leisure and opportunity. You have the perfect balance, the best combination of understanding what suffering is, but not having it be relentless. You have the glimpses of happiness and joy and bliss that can motivate you to figure out how you can get more of it, in a healthy way. So the thing you should also know is that this human realm is really the only realm you can practice in. The other ones are either too good, so you wouldn't even think about it, or
Mhm.
too bad, and you wouldn't be able to. Yeah. So this brings us back, right, to the causes, the karmas that would throw you into, or would put you into any of these neighborhoods. And actually, one of them is a throwing karma, and another is a finishing karma. So these are the two types of, I teach a lot of karma here, and usually I stick with the 4 laws of karma, the chains and stuff. We don't often talk in this detail, but the Abhidharma Kosha does talk about actually the Abhidharma Kosha is where we get a lot of ACI 5, the karma course. It does talk about, we've talked about the environmental, the different types of karma, right? Well, this is interesting. The throwing karma is the karma that brings you into one of these neighborhoods. And then the finishing karma is what will give you the kind of existence you'll have in that neighborhood. So you could have the really good throwing karma of being born human in samsara, but you could be born on the streets of Calcutta living in a box. Not the best finishing karma. Okay? Or you could be thrown into a hell realm, but you could be, your finishing karma might be that you're one of the guards in the hell realm. Because they do have guards in the hell realm too. So, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be in hell, you might as well have a little bit of power, right? So,
I was gonna say, like, what's the difference? You're still in,
you're
like,
still in hell.
insufferable
Exactly.
pain and suffering, or whatever. It's
Yeah. Yeah, don't
unbearable.
don't
and
go there.
Don't contemplate it.
This throwing karma and this finishing karma. I just have to share a beautiful little story Lamaji told here, because he was really thinking about, how we do. We like to whine, if not to someone else, to ourselves, right? About whatever our momentary discomfort or unhappiness is, which always is big in the moment because it's our discomfort. But he spent quite a bit of time working and living in India as a professor, as a scholar. He was there on grants, and so he was looked after, right? And I haven't been to India. I know many of you have, but apparently he was finding it quite onerous in terms of all the people begging on the street, and how do you, like, you can't give to all of them, and how do you help at all, because it's not, I think a lot of people will say, I can't give to all of them, so I won't give it all. And he got some really good advice from good friends of his, and they said, just pick one and give to them regularly. So he had his neighborhood person that he would do this with, and he said the best antidote for his own whining was to think of that person who really literally lived on the street and ate dirt most of the time. If he was having a bad day, he would visualize that exact being in front of him and go up to him and tell him his problems. My car wouldn't, you have a car? It's like, but it's, like that. It's just, it's an interesting exercise even for us to do, without having to go to that extreme of moving to India. Okay, so the 6 realms that we just talked about, those were the particular sufferings. Now we're going to talk about the causes of, because we talked about, like, once you're in those realms, like what it would feel like. So this is the cause for getting yourself in one of those realms. The general cause for all lower births, okay, all of them, is doing the 10 non-virtues. And basically it's doing them in lesser, medium, or greater extent, which is going to land you in one of these realms. So you all know these 10. We do this every time. Okay, so killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, divisive, harsh, idle speech, coveting, ill will, and wrong view. Yeah. So doing any of those 10 to a medium extent will get you, if you want to be a preta, do those to a medium extent. Okay? If you really want to see what hell is like, do them really full on. Okay? Do them to a great extent. And if you do them to a mild extent, it's what will could end you up in an animal realm. So I'm going to go through the specifics, because this may be a homework question also. The specific causes for birth as a preta, as a craving spirit, there are three specific causes for being born as a preta. And the first one has 3 parts. The first one is failure to give in the 3 forms of giving. Now, forms of giving, you guys all know this really well too. Sometimes we say 3, sometimes we say 4. In this presentation, it's 3. So it's not giving material, not giving, which could be stuff or money. The second is not giving protection from fear. And the third is not giving dharma, not giving true spiritual teachings. And the fourth one that they often talk about is giving love. Yeah. In the Abhidharma Kosha, they only talk about the 3 because they say love is imbued in all of them. So the lack, the absence, the failure to perform any of those 3 kinds of giving can be is a cause for a rebirth as a preta. The second specific cause is possessiveness or stinginess. Yeah. Always counting what you have or thinking about how many more things you should have. And that's possessiveness. Cheapness is like if you invite all your friends to go out for dinner and then you walk out without paying the bill and leave it to them to pay.
Or invite them to McDonald's.
Whereas when you have Dharma friends, you go to a restaurant and they end up paying and walking out and not telling you. So there's, that's not a cause for a preta, okay? So the third specific cause for a preta rebirth is jealousy. And Lamaji did this beautiful fine-tuning of this word, because jealousy is when you have something that and you don't want others to have it. But really our problem is more often others have things that we want. That's envy. Yeah. So it is jealousy, but he likes to remind us that really it's this flavor of envy that we have to watch out for. Because you know what? When you are constantly wanting what others have, you're constantly craving them, you are going to create the karma to become someone who craves all the time. That's what defines a preta. And karma really is just a habit. That's another word for karma, is habit. If you're habituated to wanting things you don't have, you will create the habit of never being able to get what you actually, it's the karma to not only not never be able to get them, but it creates the habit of wanting things you don't have, creates the karma to want things you can't have. Yeah. But remember, habit works positively too. Karma works positively. All of these things. So my example of instead of inviting friends for dinner and walking out without paying, just show up and pay for the dinner, right? That's a whole other habit. So it's karmic manipulation. Taking the effect as a cause. This is a good one. This is the fake it till you make it. How are you going to be happy if you're not even pretending to be happy, right? And you're thinking, well, that's so fake. I'm just pretending to be happy. But if you want the effect of being happy, pretending to be happy will actually, it will still be a cause. It will still create the habit, right? There's a word in our yogic practice that translates to make-believe yoga. And you discipline yourself. Yoga is a discipline, right? You discipline yourself to be happy. And the way you do that, because you can't really say, like if you're in the Philippines right now, it would be really, really hard to say, no, I'm happy. It would be really hard. But what you do is you stop being unhappy, and you start with, this is, I'm still here. I still have all of my wits about me. I'm okay. You start with that. And then you start with, like, it's a contentment, right? You're content with what you have. And then from there, you get into increasing layers of happiness through your logic of understanding that there's never a good time to be anything but. And no, when you're in the middle of a disaster, you're not going to be jumping up and down and insisting that you're happy. But you can let go of the attachment to the pain. You can let go of the attachment to the suffering. You can refuse to be more unhappy. And you start there. So those are the 3 specific causes for birth as a craving spirit. Okay, the general cause and 2 specific causes for birth as an animal. I already gave you the punchline for the general cause, which is the 10 non-virtues to a lesser extent, right? A specific cause is breaking minor rules of morality on a regular basis. And another more specific cause is actually failing to respect those who are worthy of respect. And this is interesting. This is the cause for an animal rebirth, right? So the habit of someone who doesn't respect those who are worthy of respect. See, this is an easier metaphor to understand, or an easier example to understand if you are brought up in a more Asian culture, where as a sign of respect you bow, like namaste, right? Like you bow. In Japan, they're masters at bowing, and it's a sign of respect. So if you are one who doesn't respect, then you refuse to bow, which then creates the karma to be forced to bow, to force to be on all fours. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are a little flavor of some of the causes. This is a homework question. Name and describe the 6 general sufferings that every being in the desire realm must undergo. We love our lists, right? There's all different, 3, 6, 10. I think I gave you a list of 6 and the 5th one had 3 or something like that. Anyways, there's all, the 6 and 10, right? Okay, so this one in this course is the 6-fold list of suffering. And this is what I alluded to at the beginning of class about dying. We'll get to that in a sec. So here's your 6-fold list. 1, life has no certainty. And why our lives have no certainty is because they're not fixed, right? We are in the nexus of cause and effect. We are our lives are determined by 2 things: our past karma and our mental afflictions. And because of that, there is no certainty. You just don't know what's going to pop out of your karmic pocket, right? So that's the first one, no certainty. 2, have any of you been to Lamaji's teachings where he likes to break out into song? Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the Mick Jagger. Yeah, it can't get no. We can never be satisfied. We try, and we try, and we try, but we can't get no. So it's this habit, this trait that is the second sort of part of the 6-fold suffering. this always wanting more and never being satisfied. And you know, this is something that we're groomed in the modern world, in the consumer capitalism world. Like, we are groomed to be unsatisfied. It's a paradox that, you know, we have this karma to live in, I don't know, it's a time and a place that really is equivalent to the opulence of royalty. Even this level of education we're getting was only for the elite. We've talked about that before, right? We have that, our karma is that good. But we simultaneously have the karma where we're constantly encouraged never to be satisfied. And, you know, it's kind of the modus operandi of consumer capitalism, because what happens if you're completely satisfied? If you didn't need anything else, you wouldn't consume. Yeah, the whole thing would fall apart, right? So we have everything. We do. We have the karma to be living in a place where we actually have everything, and we're constantly being told that we don't. So consumer capitalism, yeah. It's a tricky one. But this is why
Lamaji's favorite.
he came up with a mantra for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
All I have enough. Yeah. Yeah.
His favorite topic.
It works.
It does work. It does work. Okay, so the third one is having to be reborn over and over again. You know, there's this, I think when people first come upon Eastern philosophy and the idea of reincarnation, on one hand, it can be reassuring because you think, okay, I always have another chance. If I don't quite get it right,
Yeah.
I get another chance.
Yeah.
You can't think
As a
like that.
fish.
Yeah, exactly. Or in a hell realm, right? It's just going through the same suffering over and over again. Rebirth is not the solution. Rebirth is actually a problem in and of itself, right? That's the third one. Because, and actually, they call it having to be reborn over and over again. And the other one, the fourth one, is having to die over and over again.
Shake your body.
Yeah, you have to shed your body over and over again, because you know what? That's just boring. Okay, like, enough already. It's the tedium of birth, but we do it
I'm bored.
over and over again.
I'm bored.
Right? Aren't you done?
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Next. Right?
Next.
So the fifth one is the fact that we have to go from highs to lows, and this is about the vicissitudes of life. Yeah, up and down, over and over again, and we see that even in a day, right? And the sixth one is the fact that we are always alone. We're born alone, we live alone, and we die alone. And, you know, we do everything we can to not be alone. We have partners, we have pets, we surround ourselves with people. But you know what? Ultimately, it's you and your own mind. And no one else can be in there with you. We try sometimes. But, you know, that's a form of suffering, to be in there all by yourself. So, Lamaji asks this question. So, when samsara ends for you, does that mean that you won't be alone? How are you going to avoid the sixth form of suffering, of being you alone in your own mind? Right? See, as a Buddha, you are completely connected to every living being. Because, in a way, when you are completely enlightened, you are all beings. It's not that you're all one, but you know, in a way, It's what we're practicing with our bodhisattva vows. We're practicing expanding our circle beyond ourselves, right? And there is no separation. That doesn't mean you're all one. But this clue on how you can start feeling less alone in your pre-Buddha state is to start identifying with other people, to start thinking about other people. Because the fundamental problem, we've said this in previous classes, is ourselves, is our ego. We need to get ourselves out of the way, right? And together with the allure of consumer capitalism, we're trained to be fiercely individual, to be independent. And actually, consumer capitalism feeds us into thinking, right, that we should all be individual and dress the same somehow, right? Right? Have the same stuff,
Yeah.
right? But Lamaji wants us to consider that the beginning of true happiness is ending somehow the idea that you are a unique individual. That doesn't mean you give up your free will or your thoughts. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you become a zombie and you follow the masses. It doesn't mean that. But this isolated, individualistic sense of self that we so desperately grasp onto is really a cause of suffering. And if we really start thinking about how connected we actually are to others, like to stop thinking about ourselves so much and start thinking about how we are connected, how to be more general, because that's actually what a Buddha is. They're an archetype. They're not an individual. And we can feel more connected through altruism. When we are thinking of others and not ourselves, then you're starting to no longer be lonely, no longer being alone. And you start to erode this sixth kind of suffering, the suffering of being alone. We're going to make it, Farah. I promised you guys we would be out by 9 and it's 1:45. Okay, home stretch. So it does mean we don't get a dance break, but it means you all get to dance out of here, okay? So, yeah. Consumer capitalism, we're told to be individual, and then we're encouraged to buy all the same individual stuff. Mass-produced individuality. Especially now that we're getting to the holiday season, right? And the whole shopping stuff comes out. You know, Lamaji's new book is going to be called Be Nobody.
Oh.
Yeah. How to be somebody is to be nobody. Yeah.
I wonder if that's gonna like spark any controversy.
Well, he is the final. I mean, that's the main title, but they're still working on the subtitle. Yeah. The commentary to the title, but it's gonna be great. He'll be through here July, next July. We're already starting to gear up for his book tour planning, so we'll keep you all posted. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Oh, we have to talk a little bit about bardo beings. We haven't really talked about them at all yet, right?
No.
They're not in the beings that we consider in samsara because they're. Do you know what bardo means?
Intermediate state.
Yeah, transition into intermediate state. They're literally called in-between beings.
That's what
Yeah. a being who is in between one or another of these births. And so the question is the existence of Bardo beings, of these intermediate beings, is it proven by statements made by the Buddha? That's the question. And it was basically described 3 conditions under which, according to the Buddha, a child will form in a mother's womb. So how the Lord Buddha described the existence of Bardo beings was by describing how human birth takes place. So this is your birds and the bees lesson, okay? How do you get from one birth to another? And we're talking about how do you get from a previous death into a human birth is what we're going to describe here. And I believe that's the last thing. Yeah, it's the last thing we're going to talk about today. So we'll do death awareness meditation next class, okay? Because it really, really is beautiful. Okay, so you have to have 3 conditions. There has to be, now this is the classic way, and I am curious how they would describe this in the modern science of in vitro, but there has to be a suitable mother. You have to have a mom with who has, according to the Abhidharma Kosha, she has to be menstruating. Like she has to have a suitable womb to, she still has to be ovulating. But they don't even say that. There has to be a suitable, a being who is suitable to be a mother. And secondly, there has to be sexual contact between your mother and your father. And there is, thirdly, a Bardo being close enough to be fascinated with what's going on. And they're actually, it's their desire that throws them into the mix. And they're so desirous, they're so fascinated, they're so drawn to this energy that they actually, because they can travel in between, they actually travel right into the womb and they get stuck there. They get lodged into the womb, and that's how, what do you call that? When the egg and the sperm come together. Conception. What is that? That's the actual Buddhist explanation for conception. So that it's basically the, and that's why actually according to Buddhism, existence happens at the point of conception, not several. I don't know what the Western science. No, but Western science defines a fetus different things, right?
Yeah, they're considered. Yeah,
but there's different descriptions, but there is often a time lag between the point of conception and considering that entity to be a human, right? But there's obviously it's highly controversial. There's different, but there are different strains of thought on that. According to Buddhism, you are a human as soon as conception happens, because that is the moment when the Bardo being is lodged into the womb.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? So, what would draw a Bardo being to a suitable mother? And
Well, apparently they're in close proximity.
So
and there is just
would it be a
something.
previous incarnation?
It could be a karmic connection. Absolutely. There's a whole lot of specifics around that, because actually it would be a karma for those 3 beings, the parents and the soon-to-be baby, to be in proximity at the same time would most definitely be a karma. Yeah. And interestingly enough, it's not covered in this course, but I will tell you that if that baby takes form as a boy, they are actually attracted to the father. And if the fetus becomes a girl, that they were drawn into that by being totally attracted to the mother. And that, so basically that determines the sex of the child too. It's really interesting in that way. Yeah. So But those are the three conditions under which a child forms in a mother's womb.
It's funny because I heard that before that if you have a girl, that means the mom wanted to have the child more than the boy.
Yeah. But it's interesting, right? And
Huh.
different cultures probably have different, but it's still desire, isn't it? It's still this wanting, this It's interesting. So the last thing I want to tell you about Bardo beings is because in the in-between state, they oh, by the way, this attraction to the activity, it's a mistaken perception, and the Bardo being just believes that they're going to be able to play and have pleasure, and that's what brings them into this place. It's desire that throws them into it, right? But the other thing about Bardo beings, because not all Bardo beings become human. Bardo just means the in-between state that you take. They say that you will resemble the being that you're about to become. So if you died as a human and you're about to be reborn as a dog, you're going to look like a dog in the Bardo. And if you're going to go to hell, apparently you look like a charred piece of wood or something like that. And there's other rounds beings that look like they're walking upside down. Like there's all these in the Abhidharma course. It's very, very amazingly Alice in Wonderland-like, and very, very graphic. But
there's actual pictures?
I don't know if there's actual pictures, but there's very visual descriptions. Yeah. But they do say that you resemble the being that you are going to become.
You can make that straight.
So that, my dears, is class, and my clock says it's 8:53. So, any questions? We've got 2 minutes for questions. It's a quick ride, really, really quick ride. But that's the first part of the review of Death in the Realms of Existence. We'll finish off next week, and we'll do the Death Awareness meditation. It's one of my favorite meditations. Okay, let's dedicate. Puki Juching Mei Tok Tram Raving Shi Mian De Gen Padi Sange Shindu Mite Uwa Kirokudam Shinga Chupasho Yam Gurana Mandala Kamniyatayami Di Kewoku Sunam Yeshe Zosokshi Sunam Yeshe Lei Junwei Dampa Kuni Topasho. Thank you, everybody. So just a reminder that this Saturday is the film night. What's it called again?
Compassion in Exile.
Compassion in Exile. And that'll start at 7:30. I think so. And it's a fundraising movie, but we're going to have popcorn and hot chocolate and yummy treats. And then next Sunday is going to be the second round of the Great Pledge meditation, right? The 24th? Yeah.
Is it already?
Yeah, it's equinox.
Yeah. I know, because we just had one on Saturday.
No.
Not an equinox, but yes. We had our first Great Pledge 8-hour on Saturday. It was fabulous. So we'll have our second one, not this Sunday, but the following. So that'll be round 2. So still lots of time to pledge for the Great Pledge. And Wednesday nights are starting up with Lama John teaching meditation. Is this week a debate?
Debate, yeah.
Yeah, so tomorrow night is debate. So yeah, come and practice your debate. And then from next week, there'll be a 5-week, 4 or 5 weeks on the mindfulness meditations from Doug Beanhoff. Okay?
Taught my dog.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, and we have these beautiful pamphlets, you guys, that Tara had produced. Yoga is Priceless.